It's comment time, people.
You just play the damn thing.
So thank you all for taking the time to check out this video. It's been a while since I've done a viewers comments video, so I thought it was high time, and I've got some comments to respond to. But before we do that, if you would be so kind as to hit the subscribe button to this channel if you have not already. Also the like button on this video or any other video that you watch that you happen to like, or the dislike button should you happen to dislike it. Both of those actually do quite a bit in the YouTube algorithm and helps me build this channel and this audience quite a bit. Frankly, the larger this audience gets, the easier it is for me to produce more content and do more gear demos and all that kind of stuff for you, the viewer, at absolutely no cost to you. So, now that we got that little piece of housekeeping business out of the way, let's get to it. Can't figure out why you don't have more subs. You have a great show. Thank you very much. That actually means a lot to, you're not the first person that's ever said that to me, and, which also doesn't go unnoticed. It's always nice to hear that from people. YouTube's a funny thing, man. I personally, I think I should have more subscribers than I do, and I'm sure somebody's going to comment on here and tell me exactly why I don't, and they may be right and they may not be. I don't know. Who knows? YouTube's kind of a funny thing, and it's sometimes it's almost always impossible to predict, exactly what your audience wants and when they want it and that kind of stuff. Sometimes I get close, sometimes I don't. Who knows? I'm a little upset they didn't mention my amp, using Kettner Black Spirit 200. 4-channel, beautiful cleans, amazing classic rock, world's greatest high gain, every metal mode you can dream up. It'll have your back. Not to mention, for all the extras involved, very reasonably priced. You're absolutely right. These Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit has absolutely a great amplifier, and so are all the little smaller versions that it spawned that came after it. Now, the primary reason why I didn't make that particular video is because I don't think it was out yet at the time that I produced that video. I didn't look up the dates to see if see how close they were, or if I'm even right about that. I think I'm just going off of memory. Regardless, even if I am wrong about that and they were out, I hadn't tried one yet. I wouldn't have known. So, Peavey has produced some very good amps. The Bandit has been a very popular amp. However, as long as I've been playing bass in a very wide range of situations, I've yet to play with any guitar player playing a Peavey instrument. Yeah, that Eddie Van Halen guy had no idea what he was doing. No idea what he was talking about. Yeah, neither did that Adrian Vandenberg guy either. Yeah, they suck. I don't know why they ever bothered with Peavey guitars. So wrong about custom tuck and roll amps. You are talking about a lot of different amps, and I have a guitar head and a PA head solid state. They sound great, and they're built like tanks. Let me guess. Another Boomer CCR fan. Did you say that had a 60s style neck? Those are supposed to have a 50s neck. It's been 6 months or so now since I made that video. I cannot recall exactly what neck profile that I said that I had in it. I think I may have said it was a 60 neck. If I did, regardless, we're both wrung. This guitar, I can't remember exactly how Gibson has it described in their spec sheet or on their website for this guitar, but I think they get a list as a slim taper or something. It's very similar to a 60s neck profile, probably even a little bit thinner. What I've since learned since I shot that video is it's actually not a 60s profile. This neck profile is exclusive to Les Paul Custom. This is the only guitar that Gibson puts this neck profile on. All Gibson necks are hand sanded, so they can all vary a little bit anyway. Keep that in mind. But this one, it's not the fastest neck that I own, but it's up there. Definitely the fastest Gibson neck that I have. I love this guitar. But that said, if you happen to prefer the big thick, big fat heavy, 50s style neck, that guitar ain't for you. Look for another custom shop model that comes with that particular neck profile if you're in the market for a Les Paul Custom. Hi, Robert. It's funny that you mentioned decluttering the room. I always liked your old room setup. It looked fine. There was nothing wrong with it. Although when I first watched this video, I immediately thought to myself, damn, that's a good-looking guitar room. Keep up the good work. Thanks. And that right there is kind of the idea. The old space, the old setup, there was nothing wrong with it other than the fact that it was getting a little small as I kept acquiring more gear. When I first bought that house, that room was intended to be a guitar room, and that's it. And it became a YouTube setup, a YouTube space later on. And by that point, there was so much other than pull everything out and start over, which I didn't want to do because it was a whole lot of work. Other than going through all that, there was really no other option than to set up a camera and just work with it, which is what I did. But when I moved into this place, the idea with this room was, as I was building it and, designing it, was, again, with the idea of it being a YouTube space as well as a guitar recording studio. And with the YouTube aspect of that in mind, obviously, I wanted it to look nice because, as you just mentioned, when people see this, see my videos, especially if it's the first time to this channel, they might think, hey, that's a pretty cool guitar space. I might want to check out more of his videos. I would also like to mention that recent Robert Baker videos have left me cold as thumbnails and clickbait titles, e.g., this company makes a better Les Paul than Gibson, have said to me, don't click on this video. Honestly, I think people are catching on to the clickbait, hit title, kitsch, and moving on. I will admit that I've fallen out of the look at this new piece of gear, it's so much better than the old one crowd, so gear demos are the last thing I care to see. Throw more money at it, and you'll get better. Still works for a percentage of people, but frankly, I'd rather see here are some tips and tricks to sounding better without spending money. In today's economy, people are looking to save money, and it's a niche no one's really exploring. Most YouTubers are just buy this inexpensive thing, which is still spend money. All true. I guess now as one of those creators that we got to, I don't get to create the video titles that, for the platform that I wish YouTube was. I got to create them for the one that it is, and that means catering to its algorithm as best I can. And frankly, that's just how YouTube operates. They want catchy, clickbaity video titles, and I get it. I know it's some people feel misled, it pisses them off, and all that kind of stuff. But as I mentioned, and this is just an example of what's laying here on the desk in front of me. And you answer this question for yourself. What's a more intriguing video title? Is this the best noise gate pedal on the market today, or MXR Smart Gate guitar noise gate pedal? Yes, the second one tells you exactly what the video is about. However, it doesn't do much to attract new viewers. That said, I agree with Jim completely. Jim is a friend of mine, by the way. For those of you who don't know who he is, he was one half of the crew that hosts the Practical Guitars podcast, which I've been on a few times myself, thanks to their invitations. But anyway, Jim and I are pretty good friends, and I agree with just about everything he said. And one thing he said that I also agree with: I don't consume YouTube the same way anymore either. I watch the occasional gear demo if it's something I'm curious about. If it's something I'm curious about, either for my own interest or maybe I've got a customer or something that's that might have some questions about it, and that's where I'm going to find answers. I don't really sit down and watch too many gear demos myself anymore either, so I might if Fluff or Pete Thorne or somebody, or somebody whose content I just generally like anyway, if one of them posts it, I may watch it just for that, but I typically don't seek out gear demos anymore. I'm watching videos from a lot of other genres, anymore. I like watching travel videos and videos about food and cooking and, what else? A lot of home improvement videos lately, to name a few. I don't use YouTube primarily for gear demos anymore. I just don't. Robert, how the hell are you? Long time no see. How's the new house? I'm wonderful. Thank you very much. As I mentioned previously, I'm very much enjoying my new recording space. And I think I got to pat myself on the back with the color that I picked. I did pretty good there. That's a pretty awesome color. But more so, as much as I am enjoying the new house and the new recording space, I'm enjoying being a father more than anything else. We are absolutely 1,000% in love with that little girl. She's amazing. I'd say don't shorten the videos. The long videos are what I search out, and I simply do not support the channels that make sickeningly short-form content to appease the TikTok crowd that can't pay attention for longer than 60 seconds. I only watch the long-form content, so if you're going to go for shorter runtime, I wish you the best of luck, but it's not viable. I get it, but short videos, and I'm talking, 8, 10, 12-minute videos, as opposed to 20 or 30 or 40-minute videos or an hour, like some people seem to be able to get away with. I'm not one of them, but some people seem to be able to. It's the 8, 10, 12 minute stuff that I'm talking about. If I can get it down even inside of 8 minutes, 6, 7 minutes, great, even better. But that's what I'm referring to by, short form content. The TikTok's audience, that's an entirely different type of content there, and this isn't even in the same category. The YouTube short stuff, that is the stuff that's designed specifically to compete with the TikTok videos for the TikTok crowd. And in TikTok's defense, those have gotten, used to be they wouldn't allow any uploads longer than 60 seconds. Now they got a lot of content that I don't know if they have a time limit on it still, but there's a lot of longer form content. I'm not a big TikTok fan, and I personally hate vertical video. Drives me insane. Even watching it on my phone, I don't like it. I'd rather watch a good old-fashioned 16:9 format widescreen video, either on computer or on my TV or on a phone or something like that. So before you run off, it's not the TikTok video, the TikTok type content that I'm referring to. I've done a few shorts, but I don't do a lot of it. It's not really my thing. Dude, tube amps are from a bygone era. Yes, many companies like them, but today's reality is bizarro world. Yes, such a bizarro world, such a bygone era that, literally just about every single amp company out there is still making tube amps. Yeah, totally bygone. Nobody's using them anymore. Using AI art for your thumbnail is one of them. In regard to the video that I recently put up about the mistakes I made when I first started my channel, no, it wasn't. That is an experiment that I was trying out, and I decided to use that video just for the hell of it. Reason being is because I'm working on another side venture of mine that does require me to use AI art. So I'm partially part of me is trying to learn how to use it. Honestly, I just wanted to see what kind of results I would get. I wanted to see if I want to see what comments I would get, see if it attracted any more views, and I'm not entirely done with that, with that experiment either. I'm going to try a few other things and a few other styles and see what I come up with, That particular thumbnail, probably what I should have done was eliminate the text and just add a caption myself, which is probably what I will do the next time around. I don't know. There's still playing around with it. AI is far from perfect. But the reality is it is rapidly becoming more and more prevalent in today's world, and I don't want to be left behind. I want to be fluent in using it for the applications that I need to use it in. You're probably not going to see too many of them because, the YouTube thumbnail, the AI thumbnail that you saw, that was probably take number 25 or something like that. I had to redo that thing a number of times and make a lot of adjustments. Whereas if I just used my made my own thumbnail like I usually do, which usually takes me about 10 or 15 minutes. This took me 30, 40 minutes easy. So from a using bright colors and catching people's attention standpoint, it seems to have done that job because lots of people commented on it. From a time standpoint, I'm not sold yet. Like the new room, I don't look at mine either, except when I'm making the Just the Joke compilation. And speaking of the Just the Joke compilation, all my friends are commenting on this video, seems like. That's my buddy Alan Barnes over at Geargasm's channel. If you haven't gone to check him out, Alan's a funny sumbitch, and you need to go check out his videos. Even if you don't care about guitar gear, which is what most of his channel is also based on, but he's just a funny sumbitch, and you ought to go watch him just for that. Anyway, Alan, I don't think you and I are alone. I think most creators, don't go back and look at old content. I find it's just better for everybody if I just leave it in the past where it belongs. I'll go back and look at it if I got to look up something, but that's it. Less yak is better. It's about the meat of the subject. In some cases, yes, and I agree. Especially with with gear demos. But there are some things with particularly with sponsored videos that I have to cover because the manufacturer wants me to make sure and hit these specific points in particular. And these are different specs that we're talking about. They don't get to weigh in on any opinions about their product that I might offer one way or the other. And the best vendors, by the way, are the ones that insist on not doing so. In non-sponsored videos, I generally do try to keep the chatter down unless it's a newer product that there might not be a whole lot of information out there, and I want to try to be thorough. If it's a simple pedal demo for something that I'm just doing for my own enjoyment, and just because I feel like doing a demo on that pedal, yeah, probably not a whole lot, not much else that I need to say about it. But that's for gear demos. For other content like viewers comments, obviously I kind of have to talk about. For me, the top 10, top 8, whatever, top whatever number list videos have been my most popular content. I probably wouldn't have a channel today if it weren't for the the worst production guitars video way back when. Jimi Hendrix amplifier sells for hundreds of thousands. Used gear has history if it once belonged to someone famous. True in some cases. Jimi Hendrix's amplifier would sell for a boatload of money just because of the artist that it's attached to, if it can be proved that that was in fact Jimi Hendrix's amplifier. If there's no provenance to prove that, sorry, you just got an old Marshall. Not that that'd be a bad thing, but if there is no, if there is absolutely no solid proof that can connect that amp to Jimi Hendrix, it ain't a Jimi Hendrix amplifier. And the artist in question matters quite a bit as well. I had, when I was at a Guitar Center one time, I had a guy that brought in a used, Hartke bass cab that he wanted to sell. And, he wanted some, this thing couldn't have been worth any more than $200 on a good day. And, he was wanting some outrageous number for it because he swore up and down that it once belonged to Guar. This was one of their tour cabinets. This is one of their tour bass amp cabs. That's, number one, if it was, if that was true, why isn't it covered in liquid, which Guar, live shows are known for, which this one didn't have a drop on. It was just an old dirty bass cab, and he had no other proof to verify it. I think somebody probably sold it to him as such, and he believed it, because it was a cool idea, if nothing else. I don't know what he paid for it, but it was not worth what he thought it was. And even if it was verifiable that cabinet was once belonged to Guar, I don't know how much more that would have increased the value. Maybe a little bit, but not much. Is it a coincidence that Gibson Les Paul is 8 letters? That should be your top 8 list. No, because Gibson Les Paul is 13 letters. Dipshit. So that is it for this edition of Viewers Comments. Again, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so down below. And leave me your comment on either any of these topics or any other topic down below. Especially if you would like to be featured in a future episode of Viewers Comments. Leave your comment on this video or any other, and cross your fingers. Adios!